Hey guys, so I've been doing some pretty cool stuff with Claude Code when it comes to really taking email personalization to the next level. Specifically with a cold email, generally there's going to be some kind of value proposition put forward, some kind of mention of a pain point, and some kind of call to action. And traditionally, with this type of thing, you tend to do a bit of a spray and pray approach, especially if you're business offers a variety of different services, and if your ICP potentially also has a lot of different services that you could help them with. And previously, you'd have to do a little bit of a spray and pray type approach. You could maybe do the odd personalization in Clay, but what I've created in Claude Code, I guess, really takes things to the next level. And essentially what it does is it allows you to scrape the website of your prospect, get a very good idea of exactly what it is their pain points are and the services they offer, and then not only just tailor a subject like a standard personalization line, but tailor everything in your email specifically to them. So let me just show you what I'm on about here. Typically a email format that works well is to have like personal section one, few lines, personalization. Typically people do that on Clay, where it just mentions something specific about the prospect and their website, their business, and then have some kind of pain point acknowledgement, some kind of value proposition that solves their pain point, and then onto a call to action. And I have been using Google Anti-Gravity with Claude Code, and I've just been getting some incredible results on this. And I'll probably record a video further down the line of how I've got this set up. I'm using something called a DOE orchestration, like how I've structured the folders. But I'm give you a quick rundown of what I've done. What I'm doing here is for a marketing agency. So one of my clients is a marketing agency. They offer a ton of different services, and they work specifically with B2B tech companies. And B2B tech is a very broad umbrella. You could have people doing all sorts of different things within that vertical, working with a whole variety of different niches. So I was getting a pretty bad response rate when I was doing it previously, and essentially just using what I assumed to be a pain point and what I assumed to be a value proposition and a call to action for tons of different businesses within that vertical, and it wasn't landing particularly well, and I wasn't getting a good reply rate. And what I've done here is every part of the email section. So for example, the personalized opener. So here, typically, you can do this on Clay, get it to scrape the website and point out something very specific that you've noticed about the company. Could be a compliment, could be a take on their positioning, something unique about them. Just a couple of sentences to immediately help get their attention. So for example, hi, I like how focused Pipe Pro is on plumbing vertical. You clearly built around the specific workflows contractors actually deal with, not generic field service. So again, you're getting their attention rather than, typically the more broad stuff. And then secondly, what I've called the pain point bridge. And typically this is where you want to identify their pain point. And the great thing about this is it actually will personalize this sentence. And I've gone a little bit geeky on this, but I've done two things with this pain point bridge. Firstly, figuring out exactly who their buyer is from their website and identifying how that buyer actually finds and evaluates their software, because that will give you like a good idea of what channel, what service the marketing agency does that will be able to speak to that. And then secondly, looking at the website and asking the AI to actually identify any potential execution gaps. So anything from their website that might indicate that they have a marketing bottleneck. So it could be, lack of content on the website, no social proof, maybe their messaging seems off. And essentially what the AI does is, and I'll come on to this in a minute, but we've given it a whole, a list of, I think, 8 potential execution gaps. and like a bunch of different channel to ICP mapping, because you don't want to let it go completely off the rails. You want to give it a bit of a structure as to what these things are. And then similarly with the value proposition. So we're essentially, rather than just giving a generic value proposition, we're going to frame the outcome of what we do as the specific solution to the problem that we've just identified in the pain point. So again, a critical rule that I've asked the AI to adhere to is frame as outcomes, not services. So don't say we do SEO and content marketing. Say we build the demand gen engine that gets, and then their specific buyer type to find you before your competitors. Again, we want to like tie it to the channel insight that we've just found. So the value proposition must directly address the channel gap, how their buyers actually find solutions and why the company is currently invisible there. And then tie it to the execution gap. So it must name the bottlenecks and position your offering as the solution that eliminates it, not as a feature, but as a business outcome. And then it has to be adapted to every one of, so essentially the AI is writing the whole email. So yeah, so it's everything's adapted to the specific prospect that it's targeting. And then again, with the personalized CTAs, so we've actually given it a bunch of different CTAs, and we're asking to figure out from the CTAs that we've given it, which one would be the best given the pain points that we've recognized and given the value proposition that we've mentioned. So just some examples here. So we've given it a bunch of options to choose from. So from the channel to ICP mapping, I've given it a whole bunch of different like buyer types. So for example, a lot of these B2B businesses, B2B tech platforms, they work with different verticals. So if their ICP is a blue collar, plumber, HVAC, etc., highest leverage channels, Google ads, cold outreach, trade publications, why it works. So it can quickly then go to the website, figure out who the ICP is and figure out the best channels for it and mention that in the copy, so I know that it's not going to go off the rails. And then same with the execution gap. So I've given it a whole bunch of potential shortcomings that it can pick up from their website that it can mention in the pain point bridge. So for example, no content engine, there's an empty blog, or last post was a month ago, no resources section, ebooks, webinars, etc., etc. No social proof or credibility architecture, messaging, market mismatch. You get the idea. We've got 8 of them, and the AI selects. And then similarly with the value proposition library, so we've given it a bunch of different value propositions for it to pick from. Build demand gen that speaks with your buyer's language for companies whose messaging is technically accurate but invisible to the buyer searching for the solution right now. Give your sales team the proof they need to close, etc., etc. So before, rather than just letting the AI guess this, it has 8 options to pick from. And so a complete example of that, we've given it a website rather than just having like a generic pain point with a generic value proposition and the same call to action. We've broken it up into 4 sections. So first, if you've got the opener, so this is a company called Pipe Pro, a SaaS for pipe for plumbers. So the opener, I like how you focus Pipe Pro. I like how focused Pipe Pro is on the plumbing vertical. You've clearly built around the specific workflows contractors actually deal with, not generic field service. And then the pain point, which mentions both the execution gap and the ICP channel mapping. Plumbing business owners aren't on LinkedIn or reading blogs. They're Googling solutions when their current system breaks. But your site leads with technical language that isn't what they're typing into search. So again, the 2 things we've noticed all aligned. So the 2 things with the ICP mapping and the execution gap, and it's all in within the pain point bridge. And then the value proposition, we help B2B tech companies selling to trade businesses build demand gen that actually reaches those buyers, search campaigns in their language, landing pages that convert them, content that keeps you visible when they're comparing options. And then the CTA, it's decided that the 90-day demand gen is going to be the best CTA in this instance. So happy to put together a 90-day demand gen blueprint for Pipe Pro covering which channels reach plumbing contractors and what message resonates. Worth a look. So there you go. I hope you found that useful. Again, the great thing with doing this with Google with Claude Code, I don't think you can do this level of like complexity in Clay. It would be a real pain in the ass. But if you use Claude Code, you can whip this up really like pretty easily and a lot cheaper. So I hope you found that useful. If you're struggling with niches that are tricky, like marketing agencies or video agencies where it's fairly homogenous, you really got to be super targeted with your emails, and this is a great way to help you stand out and to increase your reply rates. So I hope you find that useful.